Hi, everybody. Welcome to Talking About Success. I'm your host, Jack Canfield. My next guest has written a really valuable book. I've leafed through it quite a bit today, and I love it. It's a very practical book. It's called The Millennials Guide to Work, and the author's name is Dr. Jennifer Wisdom, and she's a clinical psychologist who's committed to mentoring and supporting the next generation based on her 20-plus years of teaching, coaching, and mentoring young people. This book was an Amazon bestseller, and I would imagine it continues to be because it's such a valuable book. Now, this book on millennials and work, why did you focus on millennials?
That's a great question. I have been working with young people a long time, starting with back when I was a young person myself, and now when I'm slightly less young.
Less young?
Yeah, and what I found is the same thing that I keep seeing even 20 years later, that there's a lot of rules of work and a lot of shared assumptions that aren't so shared and things that are confusing for people as they're young people as they're making their way into work. So the young people right now are millennials, and that's the group I really wanted to target.
Would you say they have an idealized image of what work's going to be, and then when they get there, it's not quite that?
I think we all do. We all have an idealized image. I mean, my first job, that was a desk job working in the company that my mom worked for. When people stopped at 10 o'clock and went on a break, I thought, what is this? Why does everyone stop working at 10 and go on a 15-minute break? And then as soon as I got back into work, it was suddenly lunchtime again. And that's a funny example of how I was surprised at the process of taking breaks and taking lunches. But there are a lot of things about work that people don't understand, like how much of it is about relationships and how much of it is about communication, sometimes even more so than the content of your work, like finance or accounting.
I've heard employers all over the place say, why don't these kids have more social skills? You know, that's not what they were studying in school, but they need that, right?
Right. And I think if those of us who are not millennials grew up the way millennials did, we would probably be quite similar. And many millennials have great social skills. I think it's a matter of creating a workplace that brings out the best in everyone. And I advocate that, whether it's bringing out the best in your millennials, bringing out the best in your managers, in your baby boomers. I think a workplace should really strive, and managers should really strive to bring out the best in their staff.
I agree. So what is it about your work that makes it so important?
Thanks for asking that. Work is someplace that we achieve our goals. It's a place where we spend a lot of time. It's a place where we dream. It's a place that sometimes is what we do to get us through the day when the rest of life is unpleasant. For many of us, it's how we meet our esteem needs. It's how we know that we're good at something. So finding a way to help people be more successful in that environment is something that goes a long way toward helping people feel good about themselves.
So what I love about your book is I think there's like 60 different challenges, you call them, that you address for people to know how to deal with it. And you give a lot of different options of things they can do, very practical. So what's some advice you could share with us, say from your book, that millennials or all of us, I think, could benefit from?
Sure. So one big piece of advice is to get your support team together. So your support team can include family members and friends. It can include mentors, coaches, maybe a therapist if you need a therapist, and especially a network of colleagues who are people who are both at your level in your network and people who are more senior to you and people who are more junior to you. Building those relationships over time will be enormously helpful as you move forward. And you're not just building the relationships for what you can get out of people, you're building them to be able to give them what you know. And I think a lot of times, especially young people, feel like they don't have anything to offer because they're new. But everybody, no matter who they are, no matter what their age is, they have something that somebody else wishes they knew or wishes they experienced. So I support that kind of mentoring. Another piece of advice is related to having difficult conversations. Building skill and having difficult conversations gets you through so many challenges at work, and getting more comfortable with that, being willing to have those conversations, getting better at it, better at reaching a goal, not just telling someone you're mad at them, but really trying to resolve problems fairly and with integrity. Enormously important skills to have.
Now, you talk about 60 different challenges that are in the book. Could you share one of those challenges that people run up against that they're not really prepared for?
Sure, absolutely. So I talk about challenges related to yourself, like I'm bored at work, or I'm not challenged, or I feel like I might need to move on. I talk about challenges related to colleagues, like my colleagues gossip or they take credit for my work. And I talk about challenges related to bosses, like my boss undermines me, or my boss isn't promoting me, or my boss told me it's time to move on. Those are all real things that have happened to colleagues and students and people that I have worked with over the years. And a lot of times people don't expect those challenges. Those are things that kind of blindside them. And so this book gives the practical advice, as you said, to help them work through those challenges.
Now, as I was reading through this book, I have 3 sons. They're all in the music world. None of them work in corporations. But I instantly thought of the CEO of my company that he runs for me. And his son works with one of the big financial advisory firms in LA. And I thought he would so want to give this book to his kid. I talked to him about his son and what he's dealing with and so forth. And so I think this is not just a book for millennials. It's a book for the parents of millennials, or if you're an uncle of a millennial, or if you're in the company, there's maybe in the HR department, you're onboarding new staff. They should read this book too. Would you agree with that?
Thanks. I do agree with that. And the most common response I get from people who aren't millennials who've read the book are, I wish I had this when I was younger. And so I take that as a great compliment. And also that there's still such a need for young people to have someone who can share this advice with them, who can help encourage them to have the difficult conversations, or to be able to get out of their comfort zone, to build their own network, to move them forward, because we don't all have mentors that can walk us through those steps. This is your mentor in a book.
I was just going to say that. You took the words out of my mouth. It's like a mentor in a book.
Yeah.
Yeah, and 20 years of experience of mentorship in this book. And I was shocked. I didn't know when I opened it up there would be like 10, 25 pieces of advice for each challenge they might have. And it could be a book you should read, or a thing you should do, or a thing you should try. Sometimes interpersonally, sometimes with yourself.
Right.
Very practical.
Thanks.
Very practical work. So what's next for you? I'm curious.
Well, millennials are a broad range, starting from about 20 years old to 35 years old right now. So this one's for folks on the younger end who may have a little less work experience. I've received a lot of requests for people who are on the older end of millennials who are becoming managers and leaders. So the next one up is Millennials Guide to Management and Leadership.
Oh, very good.
Yeah, really excited about it. Really excited to get it out there and to share the challenges that I've had and that other people I know have had, and to help give them strategies to manage staff, to manage themselves, to be able to move up, move ahead, move wherever they want to move within their work situation.
Very good. Now, we know the book's available at Amazon because it's been an Amazon bestseller.
Right.
So if you want to get the book, go there, or all the usual places. I'm sure BarnesandNoble.com and other places have it as well. So, but if someone wants to hire you as a consultant to work with their company, or maybe even to work with themselves or their children or whatever, how do they contact you?
Sure. My website is leadwithwisdom.com.
Because your name's Wisdom. I love that. Leadwithwisdom.com.
Yep. So people can go there and see a little bit about my history and the adventures and challenges that I've had. And also I do speaking, consulting, and coaching.
Very good. Excellent. Well, you know where to go. I'm so glad you wrote this book. It's going to help a lot of people. So Jennifer Wisdom, her book, Guide to Work, make sure you get a copy, and for yourself or someone you love. So thank you for joining me tonight.
Thank you.
I love you very much for what you're doing. Good on
Thank
you.
you.
All right, everyone, stick around. I have one more guest, and we'll be right back after this message.